pleasure to accept the invite and to give this talk today.
Mhm. So, to give our audience the context on our talk today, so in more than 80 countries, the United Nations and thousands of multinational corporations have implemented a standard for global communication called the Common Framework of Reference. Now, if you were to speak about business, how will the language or the global communication impact the industries? Can you give us a picture of the global business in the ASEAN?
So the CFR, it started in the EU. It was a way for countries to define what language standards were. So the EU has about five or more than several official UN languages. In ASEAN, we only chose English as the official mode of communication in ASEAN. So for ASEAN and global business, we really have chosen English officially and adopted it as a language of ASEAN. Okay. Okay, so do we start on the webinar? Okay. Okay, so just to discuss how important English is for the Philippines. I had these old slides from a few years ago. It says 2015, but the industries are largely the same. So the three biggest growth drivers of the economy still are OFW remittances, business process outsourcing or the IT/BPM industry, and tourism. And tourism, parts of it are also, we send a lot of people in the maritime industry to work on cruise ships or in different tourism sectors around the world. So for the Philippine economy, English is super important. If you look at OFW remittances, the higher skilled work there is largely on healthcare, right? And they need to pass these English tests before actually going overseas. So English is huge for the OFW remittances space. And for IT/BPM, it's obviously really one of the big keys why the IT/BPM industry has flourished in the Philippines. So English doesn't just affect kind of those industries, but because of those industries, they're able to power things like property. How much property was built on the back of the IT/BPM industry? Things like restaurants are built on OFW remittances. Healthcare, like a lot of remittances paid for healthcare here locally. A lot of our industry is built on the capability to speak English.
Okay.
Okay, sure. Okay, so we can go on.
So you've mentioned, and it is interesting to know as to why Hiroshi decided that all employees will speak in English. So how will the English language contribute to the growth of the businesses? And can you please elaborate on this and how it impacts businesses and economy in the ASEAN region, more so in the Philippines?
Okay, so just a little bit. I think Alyssa, you're mentioning Hiroshi Mikitani, the guy who founded Viber. I think it will be on next slide 20. Basically, he said for Rakuten, and Rakuten's the owner of Rakuten owns Viber. It also owns, I think, Buy.com, and it does a lot of work around the world. In Japan, Hiroshi Mikitani said, "We will speak English is the official language of Rakuten in Japan."
Oh.
So in Japan, as a multinational corporation, he said English is our language here. If you can't speak English in 3 years, you'll have to get out of the company. In Japan, the reason being is they couldn't attract enough tech talent in Japan. There weren't enough Japanese people, so they said we have to become an English-speaking company to be able to compete in the global marketplace. Okay, so do you want me to start with all the slides? What I think it means for ASEAN, what it means for business, is really that it's super vital for our economy, as I've shared. But actually, our English proficiency hasn't been as competitive. And this year in Business World, the Business World Economic Forum, there was one person from I think MAP, who said there were about 1,000 jobs moved from the Philippines to Singapore because our level, our we couldn't upskill for the higher skilled positions you need in that particular part of the IT BPM. So jobs are moving from lower cost locations like the Philippines to higher cost locations like Singapore and Malaysia, mostly because maybe we're not as skilled. And if you've seen Singapore's much, the scores when you compare English are higher in Singapore than they are in the Philippines. And this isn't common also in other companies. There was an online English company, they moved 3,000 jobs from the Philippines out. It's like 2 years ago because they couldn't find enough competent online English teachers. So, English not being really, not being as proficient as we were really affects the economy today.
So the reality is very far from what most Filipinos know now. I see. So with those figures and statistics, this is the same reason why PMAC is conducting this webinar. Also, through the Center for Research and Publications Academic Industry Committee, we conducted a research on the scores of the current Philippine companies in terms of English proficiency. Can you talk about this more?
Okay, so I'll just finish off these intro slides, then I'll discuss. Here are just some things other countries are doing. Malaysia, they have a national English roadmap. If you go to the next piece, that's actually Thailand. They also are adopting international English standards. It's actually Filipinos who are doing a lot of this work in other countries. But here's a big one, and I want you to look at the screen on this if you can. 90% of nurses, and these were nurses who, here we pay 15,000 to 20,000 as nurses. Here they would have made about 2 million a year, and they were already hired. And 90% of them failed this English language test, which would have changed their life. This was published in the Times, the UK Times, about a year ago. And also published, I think, in ABS-CBN or Business Mirror. And they're about 200 or so, and they failed an English language test. So it really does affect the economy today. Everyone is pretty much mapped to one common framework called the CFR or the CFR. There's another one called the ACFTL, but that's pretty much just the US. And it's pretty much every country and every multinational is using this common framework called the CFR. So just some news around ASEAN. Here, Vietnam, they're doing the National Foreign Languages Project. Thailand, they're requiring all teachers who teach in English to have a TOEIC score, and the TOEIC score you can map it to a CFR score. Malaysia is doing the Malaysian National English Roadmap. And the Philippines, I think at least we're doing a little bit. We're doing a little bit of catch up. We did do a National English Roadmap last November, where we're actually trying to adopt the same standards.
I see.
So here's what the CFR looks like. It's it's slightly small on screen. It's A1 beginner, A2 upper beginner, B1 in the intermediate, B2 upper intermediate, C1 proficient. And the three popular tests around the world are generally the TOEFL, the TOEIC, or the IELTS, and then they have representative scores for each. So an intermediate score B1 would be a 550 on the TOEIC or a 57 on the TOEFL. And this is also kind of what's being used by, say, Thailand as a standard or their target for their high school students. So Malaysia is using the B1 target for their grade 6 or year 6 students. So Thailand for their high school students, Malaysia for their grade 6 students. You can kind of compare scores not just in ASEAN, but also in the EU, and they're also using that for visa. B1 is also used for a tier 3 visa or a temporary worker visa. For everyone, here's a description. So I'm actually from the TOEIC test. And you can actually see a little bit of a description. A1 as a beginner, and a little bit of can understand and use familiar everyday expressions and very basic phrases. So people can kind of get a feel what does an A1 or beginner, what can they do?
Alright.
Okay, and this is just the last so people can see. People in the IT BPM industry might use the Versant tests, and here's a mapping also here.
Mm. Okay. So undeniably, the English language is deemed necessary as it is a key economic driver in the Philippines.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think it definitely is. So we'll go on and actually present the research findings. Okay, so
Okay.
what we did with TMAP, we started this about 2-3 years ago, was there were no studies on where the Philippines fit on this framework. The whole world was using it, and if you're going to ask, where is the Philippines on this CFR, there was really no data. So we did that data, and part of the people who did it was TMAP, and they helped out.
Okay.
So again, B1 is what Thailand is setting as the standard for its high school,
Mhm.
and Malaysia is setting for grade 6. So we did a study with about 10,000 college graduating students,
Mhm. Okay.
and the college graduates scored a score of 631.4 in TOEIC, which is B1. For a college graduating student, the average score when you did the sample of 10,000 was B1. And when we did this in 2016, Thailand set their target a bit higher of B2, which is why you see it on the slides. Now Thailand revised it to B1. These are from the work we did with TMAP 2 years ago. Imagine right now the average Philippine college graduate in 2016 was set to a similar standard as what Thailand was trying to aim for
Mhm.
high school students. Like imagine.
Wow.
Okay, so this was comparing it to kind of the standards in 2016. Again, Thailand lowered it, but mostly it's the same standards.
Mhm.
Vietnam also set their target for grade 6 students at B1. At B1. You'd really say, okay, how many of our students could pass the next level, B2? You'd actually just say about 18% could pass that B2 standard.
Mhm.
Okay, now what we did is we compared it not just with language frameworks or what other countries were doing, but we compared it then with industry, and this is a lot of work with TMAP. So with TMAP, we were able to make a bunch of we were able to work with a lot of companies like Dusit Manila Volunteer. This was way back in 2016. Marriott Manila, StarTech, EEI, Waterfront. So a lot of PMAP members wrote and said and they said, hey, you could actually these are our recommended scores for this particular position. So we compared, okay, the Philippine graduates, how many could pass that score? So say you look at something like IT which was the customer care position at StarTech, only 9% could meet that score. Front office at Marriott, only about 9% could meet that score. And what is a B1 really? And then they asked us to find an interesting and funny, not really funny, but something unique comparison. We said, Tokyo, the Tokyo Taxi Association is setting a standard of B1 for the English speaking taxi driver program in the Olympics.
Oh.
Right? So imagine a Philippine college graduate, the scores are similar to what they would expect for an English speaking taxi driver for the Olympics. Not a taxi driver, but at least an English speaking taxi driver for the Olympics. Right? That's not really what you'd expect for a college graduate to have. And here's where this was just something we noted during the conference we did. This is again a sample of 10,000 students. A public university that took part had BS education students. These were students who graduated already and they had an education degree
For English.
for specializing in English. And they scored between what's typical of grade 2 and grade 5. So they're going to be the educators of the future.
Mhm.
And those were all the scores. So they didn't even meet the grade 6 target of Malaysia, which is B1. So when the Philippines really thinks, are we, and so this is the updated slides. Remember, I used to say that in the slides before it said Thailand was a B2, they then revised it to B1. So this is a more updated piece. Let me just get my phone. I'm keeping time on my phone so I don't overshoot. Okay, 9:23. So here's the most updated slide. So our piece is on the left. It's called the Nation's English Report Card. Interestingly, there was a company later on called Aspiring Minds. They did another sample. And if you look at the results, they're kind of the same, right? With the TFR. You say, hey, about 50% are B1, right? 50% are B1. And then on the rightmost side, these are the targets that our ASEAN neighbors are having. Imagine Malaysia, grade 3, they're setting at A2 or upper beginner. And so aspiring minds said about 20%, we said about 30% of college students. They said 20, we said 30. So 20 to 30% of college students are at the Malaysia grade 3 level.
College student.
That's crazy, right?
I know.
And so they said 50%. So they did 60,000 samples. We did 10,000 samples. We did something called stratified. I think they did. I think they did convenience sampling, different methods. So we did but we both agree. Look, 50% hit the Malaysia grade school target. Wow,
That's really deep.
right? College student versus grade school target. Right? College student versus and remember in slide number 2 we said our economy is built on English.
Yeah.
So why do we always think that we're really good in English? Because I think the upper or I think the middle class and up part of our population are some are really born as English speakers. So we do have more native speakers than those other countries. Right? Like some of us really were born with English as the first language.
Yes.
But as an average,
Taking into
when
consideration.
you look at these bigger sample sizes, then these are the things that show. Right? Imagine. What we really hope is people understand that so the title of the talk is Global Communication Standards and National Competitiveness. So we really have to have these big initiatives and have hopefully HR practitioners understand what this CFR is. Because it does help. It helps you create standards for your organization for hiring, promotion, training, and it will also help the whole country in terms of leveling up. Okay, so
Okay, so moving forward, sir, what are the things or plan of actions we need to do in order to improve our English proficiency level?
okay, so this is where it's useful for HR. For HR practitioners, and there was a previous slide when we kind of put levels per position, right? So you would typically use a B1 as kind of a very basic entry point, and then B2 are kind of the more higher skill jobs and more. And as an HR practitioner, you do have something called the talent cycle. So you can implement the CFR either in hiring, in training, and promotions. I actually wrote here, and this is the favorite piece of HR practitioners. How do I find what CFR level are my employees? And for free. I did put some links here and I'll spend some time on it. So you could go to something like yourenglishTest.com where you put a full TOEIC test and it gives you your score and it kind of gives you your CFR level. And it's very accurate test, but it does take a bit longer, about an hour. Or you could use the FSET test, about 15 minutes, not as accurate because it's only 15 minutes, but you can get a perfect score.
That's really generous of you, sir. So with what has been laid out and presented, it is important that we leverage and capitalize on our English skills and competencies to further advance our agenda in promoting a wealthier economy and businesses. So,
Okay, I'll just finish. I'll finish the slides and we'll do the closing. Okay, so before Alyssa signs off, this is called the self-assessment grid. This is the official document from, I think, the first designers of the CFR. So you can kind of understand. You can just ask employees to circle, where am I in listening? Am I a B1 or am I a B2 in reading? And they can just choose the statement that applies just best for them. That would work well. So you have those free English tests. You also have a self-assessment grid. And here's how HR can really implement it. Again, I said previously, you can use this in HR practices such as hiring. So there are thousands of companies that actually put this as part of their hiring requirements or their employment standards. The United Nations is one of them. And that's why you mentioned that they published in something called UNHCR, their Human Resource Council. They're asking for C1, which is one of the highest. And it's popular to put it also in job advertisement for hiring. Other multinationals, like some of the top 5 accounting firms, they use it for promotion. I'll put a B2 or a C1 for promotion before you can get assigned anywhere in the world. Because some of these firms, like Ernst and Young, are global firms and they do work globally, so they might use the CFR that way. But to help the graduate, the best thing is not just have these standards in your policies, but put it where graduates can see it. Like the job ads that you might put in Caliber or JobStreet or your company websites. So I think a lot of the airlines, such as AirAsia, they actually put what scores to have before hiring. And if you look at the case of Korea, why the whole country loves English, part of it was Samsung. Samsung said, hey, we want the ones who are going to be assigned overseas need to have this kind of English standard. So a CFR is really nice because people aren't supporting a test or a particular company, but they're supporting a common standard that everyone uses and a free standard that everybody uses. So human resource policies can really drive what education wants to do. So this is just what we recommend. You could just say, hey, we could just require something like a CFR B2, and then they can take pretty much any test, like TOEIC, TOEFL, IELTS, one of the free ones I mentioned, right? So this is how corporations really help graduates. Because graduates just see this, because they understand that, hey, I have to be at this level of English, and a Filipino isn't any more good by default, right? We're not better as compared to all the other ASEAN countries. And one big thing is, imagine when we study in the States, Filipinos aren't exempt from taking the TOEFL test to go to the States. Singapore is exempt. They don't have to take a TOEFL test. The US respects that Singapore, they're good enough in English before going overseas. But the Philippines is not exempt. Even in ASEAN, we're not considered the best anymore. So who does this? So here you go. Tons of companies do this, and I just found some JobStreet ads. So this is Accenture Philippines. They posted something like a TOEIC score. There's even a company called Sportsbookie Online. I think that's when I googled, it's a long JobStreet, and then I even found it on UP magazine. Imagine UP, right? Even wrote it in their magazines. This is an okay thing. Okay, and this is the stuff you mentioned earlier. Just people, interesting policies. So this was way back in, I think, 2015 or 2010. The owner of Viber, one of the richest people in the world, he said, get a TOEIC score of 800 in a few years or get out. A different guy, super famous, CEO of SoftBank, who owns Sprint, who owns ARM. Now I think a lot of companies that we know, like Uber, Lyft, Grab, right? He said everyone in SoftBank who gets a high English score, he just gives $11,000 or 1 million yen. So those are other ways to promote kind of English in your company. France, on a national level, they were able to say, hey, let's set clear CFR levels like B1 in high school, B2 for grad school, and the number of students who achieve an expert level in English jump, this is about 600%, right? From point 4 to, actually, that's more than 600%, 1,000%, right? So we jumped about 10, 12 times. And every country, even in South America, are all the time raising their standards. Either English teacher standards going up. Philippines is one of the few countries that doesn't have clear standards, and we're really unsure what is our language policy, what do we want to aim for. We just kind of assume that we're good in English, but around the world, people aren't saying that anymore. Like the US isn't exempting us from taking English there. So I'll just summarize the whole talk, and the primary industries that are driving the Philippine economy really use English as a competitive advantage. The IT BPM, OFW remittances, tourism. The other countries are rapidly improving, right? Thailand has a national English standard. Vietnam has something called the National Foreign Languages Project, which is backed by $100 million or something. Malaysia has a national English roadmap. So they're not saying our mother tongue is bad, like we abandon Vietnamese. We're just saying that all those other countries are saying we love our mother tongue, like which is Vietnamese or Malay, but we have to be globally competitive and as a way to attract jobs. And HR, and I hope the people listening, they really do play a key role in improving English language proficiency when they use international standards like the CFR, which is free, and they just publish it on their website somewhere so graduates know. So they can use this stuff, and I intentionally tried to put things that are free so people listening in can kind of adopt some of the free things, which are best practices. And hopefully, my hope is that people just put it on a website somewhere. And with that, I think that's the whole talk. Maybe Alyssa, you'd like to close it out?
Okay, so this is the kind of reality that we have now. Philippines is not the best at English anymore. We're not good at
I
English.
think we're better. We're in the middle in ASEAN. We're in the middle.
Okay. So we have to recognize that fact. So this afternoon has been full of insights. So we would like to thank our subject expert, Mr. Rex Valentine.
Okay, thank you, Fima, and everyone listening, and Alyssa for doing this.
So again, I am Ali saying sa Fima, we move forward towards greater heights. Thank you for your time, and we hope to see you again in our next webinar session.
Okay, great. So thanks everyone.